Who am I? I am Dustin Derry. I am the CEO and one of the founders of a small company called Stonewolf Studios based in Chicago, Illinois. I'm the lead lighting designer for the company, and I am also the laser safety officer and lead laser person in general for everything that we do. I've been in the industry since I graduated college in 2001. Lasers became part of my world in we'll say 2015 or so. And basically, since I got my first laser, I haven't looked back and tried to put everything in each show that I do, to be honest.
So, what drew you to this industry?
The industry is basically, I, as a freshman in high school, stepped on stage for my first play as an actor and went, oh my God, this is exactly where I need to be the rest of my entire life. And so after that moment, I kind of was hooked on theater and hooked on live performance. And while that path kind of varied over the years and changed over to the technical side of things, it was very much I started off as an actor and I wanted to be a theater kid who sang and made all these beautiful moments. And it got to be I think my sophomore year of college, and I decided that I wasn't a very good actor. So I told my professors, "Hey, I kind of want to change what I'm doing," and I shift over to technology. And my who then became mentor, started to unload his brain into mine and said, "Go forth and make light." And I kind of haven't looked back since. So.
So, what was your opinion of lasers and laser software before you started working with IT?
It did exist. That story actually kind of comes in two parts, and one of them is related to high school. And an old friend of mine who works at another company that I didn't realize we had met when I was in high school until a couple of years ago. And that's where we were doing some plays, and we always had these really cool field trips in high school where we would go to something related to the show, see the show, and then a meal related to the show. And it was the Who's Tommy, and so we actually went to go see a laser studio, which was Aura Technologies, whom I don't know if they actually still exist, but in Chicago. And got to meet, got to actually play with the laser for the first time and saw show laser up close and personal for the first time. And I was like, I want to do this, but then had no actual real contact with lasers from that moment on because I didn't know how to get there, where to go. And at that point, I was still, I'm an actor, which is no longer the case. And what I had figured out over years later, or with beers with our friend David Kennedy at Strictly Effects, I was totally telling the story about going to Aura Technologies, and I remember there was this blonde-haired, pony-tailed dude, and he really kind of made an impact and really made lasers fun for me. And he laughed. He's just like, "That was me." And I'm like, "What?" And there was this mind-boggling moment of like, how my whole world just kind of came full circle all of a sudden. It was really cool. So that's kind of the first touch to lasers, and then I didn't actually go back to lasers until, like I said, until like 2015 or so, where I wanted to. Basically, I was like, ooh, hey, I want to get into lasers. It's kind of a natural progression of what I want to do, and it was kind of an idea in the back of my head, and I didn't really get into it too much, but I just kind of mentioned it to a buddy of mine who happens to supply a lot of our gear, and then one day he just kind of sends me a screenshot of X Laser B stock sale. He's like, "Hey, would this be a good like start for us?" And I was like, "I don't know, let's try them." And so we bought two X-Beam 2500s that were terrible at the time and all of that. And but they got me in there and got me hooked. And then we also at that time also then bought one of the older Skyriders as sort of a graphics backup to kind of do the main things that we wanted to do in the show. And that was basically where I came into the whole thing, and that's where I started to learn. Okay, this is the other softwares that I don't like as much anymore. That was my first introduction to laser software was the Penguin Control Suite, and at the time I thought it was great. And then I learned other things existed. So at first, when Mercury was released, Adam and Andrew both were just like, "Hey, we got this thing you want to check out," and I saw it at LDI for the first time, kind of in passing, and I was like, "Oh, that's kind of cool. I don't know. It's a DMX laser. I don't know if I like DMX lasers," and I didn't know. Kind of went away from it for a couple months, and then in that winter, Adam called me. He's like, "Hey, man, why don't you just come on and hang out and like really get your hands in Mercury?" And so I was like, "Okay, well, sounds like a good idea. I'll come hang out for a couple days. And it was, to me, it's one of my favorite stories about hanging out with Andrew Barry is he sat me down and he started to walk me through Mercury control software and literally very one step at a time and blah. And after like 2 minutes, I was like, dude, stop talking. I'm making stuff. Stop. But I'm okay. I'm okay. Let me play. And then like 2 hours later, he comes back and like, dude, how are you doing that? I didn't even know that could do that. Cool. So that was the next kind of step there. And then it was me starting to put Mercury on basically everything I possibly could because that was the moment when all of a sudden, oh, why do I need all of these other control softwares? Why can't I just drive everything off of the Lighting Console? And that's kind of where things shifted. And then from that point, it was just I was eager and I kept on being like, hey, let me help out. Hey, do you got stuff I could test? I'll help out. I know how to test stuff. I've beta tested for various softwares over the years because at the point I was a beta tester for Campsys. I had already been a beta tester for Campsys for I think 10 or 12 years by that point. I was a beta tester for ETC at that point. I was a beta tester for 4 or 5 different video games, and it kind of just all flowed naturally because like I would start giving actual like, even though there was no like bug report form, I knew what kind of a bug report should look like, and so I just every time I'd run into something, hey Andrew, blah blah blah, this is what I noticed. Here's how I recreate it, and then it just progressed into this relationship of now he just sends me things. Here, break it, or try. Truth be told, honestly, XLaser has never treated me any less than family. And that's something that literally from day one with Adam, from the first phone call that I ever talked with him, it was always very friendly and very nice. And it was talking to me like a human being and not just a set of dollar signs. And, my first conversation with Adam was, hey, you might not even ever buy a piece of gear from me, but I like talking to you. And if you need advice, just give us a call. We'll figure something out and we'll try to get you whatever you need, even if it's not our stuff. I was like, wow, dude. And like that meant the absolute word to me. And then meeting every other person, in the company over the next couple of years has been like, just been amazing. And it's like now this entire company is lifelong friends that, I will do anything to like drive across the country and just come and hang out for a couple of days because that's how good an X-Laser service actually is because they treat everybody like that. You guys, I mean, that's what you bring to the table. So, yeah.
So moving on to like laser specific stuff. What makes lasers distinctive as lighting fixtures?
It's that punchy beam, man. It cuts through everything. You get even a low watt laser, even in brighter conditions, you could still see a beam no matter what. And like you get that off of incandescents, you don't get that off of LEDs. Or I mean, you can to a point, but it's definitely not the same. So it's all about that crisp, meaty beam that just I think you know what lasers look like here. Insert some pictures of my work here. That's why. See this thing right here? That's why. Um, yeah, no. For me, it's that, and it's the colors, and it's so versatile, right? Like a laser's versatile. Like a laser can be a set of graphics for you, and it can be another gobo set for you, or can't really be a wash, but you have other lights for that have nice soft edges, so you don't really need a laser to be a wash ever. But man, if you need something to cut through everything else and like really show up and pop something, throw a laser up there. There's no way around it. Like just best tool for the job at that point.
Yeah. What surprised you the most about lasers, just in general?
In general, honestly, once the Mercury system came into the picture, was how easy things really are. Using other control softwares they're kind of cumbersome. I mean, truth be told, like there's a lot of things to learn, and like as a lighting designer in this day and age, is you already have to know networking, you have to know software control, you have to know drafting and design softwares, you have to know even to the point like Photoshop and even video editing softwares, especially if you are like me and like to use multimedia in all of your presentations. Then you also need to know media server software, the video editing software, and then lasers were just yet another piece of damn software. And it was just like and another computer sitting on the desk, and another video feed that I need, and another technician that I need in a union house. Like that, people don't even think about that is you need that additional technician if there's that additional computer sitting there. So it went from all of that to being, oh, this is just right at my fingertips, and my lasers are just an extension of my rig at this point, and they're just an extension of me, and let me create.
What kinds of projects and events have you used lasers for? Because I know you do a lot of concert events.
Yeah, no, that's kind of actually what I hope and wish and try to make apparent as my forte is not doing concerts and events with lasers. Like, there's plenty of guys and gals out there doing amazing work, and let them do it, man. Like, I don't need to step into that. What I like doing is the unique projects and doing things that are weird. Like I like doing big install projects that are outdoor things that'll sit for a while. For instance, from this past winter, Morton Arboretum, I was able to collaborate with my good friends at Light Switch, who are amazing human beings and amazing creative individuals, and they let me bring my laser toys in on their big project, and we're nothing but supportive of, like, you're the laser pro, go do your thing, man. And, like, kind of just let me rock out and do my thing. So, like, that's what I like to focus on: big, weird stuff and like installs, or doing unique things like bringing lasers into dance. Like, dance is always been my passion. And like, if you ask what kind of lighting designer is Dustin, he's a dance lighting designer. At the end of the day, that is who I am, is I design dance. And so every once in a while, I'm able to go, I need something special for this. And that's where I'll try to stick in a laser in a creative way. Like, the first time I used lasers, it's one of the first shots of my portfolio it's just a down grid over one of my dancers to create just a special around her. And, it's a dark area with a little bit of color and her in silhouette. That's one of the most powerful shots I've ever gotten of my lighting. So you can do like those sorts of things, but then all the other things. And so, like, I don't know, I try to always view it in a new way, in a creative way. Like, a couple of, right after that show, we did another show that was a David Bowie based dance show. And so, instead of doing a lot of those little graphic things on the floor, it was a lot more about like creating star fields on the floor, and it's more almost realistic, but not quite realistic. David Bowie's, how it goes, Spider Smart. So yeah, so that's kind of who I am as a lighting designer. Like, that's how I try to use lasers, as new and unusual ways.
To that, what kind of feedback have you received from either clients, audiences, friends, people about your lasers? The comments you put up, like, at the end of it, like, that one thing was really cool, what was that, and whatever.
Yeah, honestly, generally, if a laser gets into the show, the clients and the audience are all about, oh my God, that was the coolest thing ever. What was that light? That is 95% of the comments that we get about it. Or, oh, cool, I didn't know what that effect was that you integrated into all of this other stuff, but how did you do that? And it's like, oh, that was a laser snuck in to create, a layer of color before you get to my site, so that there's these multiple layers of things.
How did Mercury and XLERATE help with, okay, I have a whole bunch of lists of things, you ready?
Yeah.
Tempo from 2020.
Yeah.
What was the process with Mercury and XLERATE and all that?
Dude, tempo, like, we could not have accomplished tempo in the way that we did without Mercury and XLERATE. Tempo was one of the first national scale drive-through events during the COVID era. It was that in that September, right after everything shut down, and it was a drive-through event. And the director, is from Eric from Core Designs, came to me and just like, hey, I want to do like this sheet of lasers over the entire park. And I'm like, I got you. And so it kind of came from that point, and because of the way COVID was landing and everything, we could never get any of the artists that were working from all of the different departments on that in the same room and at the same time. So we all did things in virtual worlds, and then put everything into previs, and then I layered lasers of that on top of that through using XLERATE to talk to Capture, and then to actually make the lasers go in Capture, and ended up being pretty spot on. Once we got there, there was very few changes that we actually needed to make. Once we got on site, the big thing was I had to adjust my yellow. It turned very green in the real world, and it was very orange on the screen. So there was a little adjustment to be made.
There was another like outdoor one you did a couple of years ago.
It's the Arboretum. It was Illuminations. A couple of years prior, we had just rented them the gear. It wasn't any of my work. It was they had heard about the lasers, and at that point we had only had the 20 watts. At that point, we didn't actually have the 36s yet. And they rented the 20 watts, and like I went in and trained their programmers on how to program them. That's when 2 years later they came back to me and was like, hey, kind of love what you do. Why don't you take your turn at this? For Illuminations, those lasers sit outside from mid-October to the second weekend of January in Chicago.
Yeah.
All outdoors. And so it's just, there's a little bit of like, please make it through the whole thing. Please make it through the whole thing. But honestly, everything's built so well that where the things that failed on stuff were just because of extremes of weather, where like when all the weather was, negative, negative 10 through 30 degrees all the time, everything was fine. It was just one day. I remember specifically there was this one week where it had dropped to like negative 30, sat there for like 4 or 5 days, and then sat at like 60 degrees Fahrenheit at 100% humidity for a week. And it was literally this death fog just sat over Chicago for like a week, and you could literally not see more than 10 feet for like almost 7 days straight. And then that's where I lost a bunch of galvos on a bunch of lasers, because the lasers got penetrated. Even though we sealed everything, there was just so much moisture getting pulled through that there was nothing we could do about it at that point. So,
What are your thoughts on color mixing and matching with your lasers?
my thoughts that it is ridiculously easy, because it's just like every other moving light. Is I have palettes. I update palettes if I don't like the palettes, and then the palettes stick through the entire show. Like for me, it just makes it super easy, right? It's like before with like having to mix some other softwares, there was no, you had to mix in that software, make adjustments in that software, and if you're having to jump back and forth from the console and all of the, sometimes it's hard to make those palettes match between the different things. And so going to purely Mercury, where I would be like, "Ooh, hey, that blue is really cyan, a little more cyan today, cool." Tweak, and then I'm done with Mercury.
Zoning.
Also, that's just superest easiest thing in the world. I love XLERATE for zoning, because it is a little tiny piece of software that is not very big, that I spend about 20 minutes in, and then I don't see it again for the rest of the entire process. And that's the beauty of XLERATE, and why it's so easy for zoning, because it takes 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and there's enough tools right there at your fingertips that you don't need all the big fancy tools that some of the other softwares offer you.
What else do you use Accelerator for?
I do a little bit of the REM stuff. I don't use it necessarily as much for rig management. I do use it for just kind of as a network, like a network sniffer, to just kind of see what's out on a network and be like, oh wow, there really is all this other crap sitting out there. Cool, we need to move around. It has saved me on a couple network shows, actually, just trying to see what's where. And oh no, they did the paperwork wrong, and we have a data collision over here. That's why when I said this laser show, his lights start doing weird things. So, right? So,
What limitations do lasers have?
uh, really, the only limitations I find with lasers are the logical safety limitations, really. And like the limitation is I can't make a wash with a laser. So that's kind of the only real limitations, is the safety. And even that isn't really a limiting factor if you know how to do audience scanning properly and have the appropriate equipment for audience scanning. Then really the only limitation is I can't go and vomit a big circle of laser at a spot.
Right.
I have other lights to do that.
What are your thoughts on the physical, units themselves?
I really love how they're laid out mostly. In fact, I have to say completely, actually. The units themselves are all built rock solid. Like we figured out what I bring 42 lasers with me this time. My 42 lasers have been through hell and back. They have been kicked around. Their cases have been dropped. They've been shipped literally across the country multiple times in multiple directions. And we came up and we had 3 lasers that actually need real legitimate work in a year's worth of work. So I was like, that's pretty awesome. That's a really good hardy rate. That means those units, yeah. I mean, those units are really, really hardy, and especially for the 5s, they're so light and they're so easy to maneuver. And that's why I literally, when I'm going to do corporate shows, even if I'm not putting lasers on that show, when I walk in the door, I have 4 sitting in my car, just in case. And I will tell you, about 50% of the time, when one of my clients finds out I have lasers in the car, it's an automatic, go grab them, throw them up, dude, go. So, yeah.
Have you ever done a show with a separate, either you're the laser person and the other way, or the other way, and what's that? What was that like? Was it with Mercury, or was it on something?
When I do that, I have done that multiple times in different ways, both directions, actually. When I was just a laser person, it was Mercury and talking to another lighting designer, and I've gone through that in two different processes. One, it was we were running our own consoles and he was just literally calling me cues, and I just had a set of cues that him and I created together, during tech processing in the afternoon and just firing the cues when he says. Or we've also done it where we've time coded it, so I can actually create a time coded stack on my console, and then he just fires the time coded stack, and we both run together. Or we'll get into busting situations. This is actually one of my favorite times that I used Mercury with another lighting designer. Was this guy from, I think he was from Dominican Republic or Cuba, spoke like 4 words of English, but knew he could at least give me the colors that he wanted. And after him and I went through sound check, he came to me and he just had this big smile. He was like, "You just do you. You be you. I'll be me. It's going to be beautiful." And I was like, "All right, man, let's do this." And so we got really excited, and there was just this cool moment, like him and I got completely in sync, and it was just, we were on two very different consoles, two very different mediums, but it came out to be this really cool collaborative show. And like after the show, he just comes to me, he's hugging me, he's like, "That was so cool. Want to bring you everywhere." So yeah, so I've been in those sorts of situations. I've also been a lighting designer that needs to talk to a laser guy. That's my least favorite of those situations, because most of the time I'm like, "Dude, you're taking too long." Because not everybody's me. Then I'm fussy about having other programmers.
Just about your creative workflow when it comes to integrating lasers with traditional lights. What has that been like for you with Mercury? And kind of how has that changed from what it used to be to what it is now?
It's actually been a bit of an evolution. Before it was lasers used to always be the extra candy that I would try and get on a show, and now it's actually become a point of most people are assuming that if I'm involved, there's going to be lasers, which is sort of been a great evolution to have, and that keeps all of our lasers working. But like my creative process is one, I always decide up front if I really am going to look to put lasers in a show, because some shows just don't call for them. And even with the dance shows, even when a choreographer's like, "I really would love to have the lasers," there are sometimes where I'm like, "I just don't really feel like that fits with what we're doing here. But let me give you some other day, and we'll try to find something else." And sometimes we'll come back to the lasers, sometimes we won't. But then there's other times where I'm like, "Man, this needs one more little thing, that thing," and I got 3 lasers sitting out there. Throw them up, see what happens. All right. And that's generally kind of how it's been working. And now that more and more of my clients are starting to know that we have the lasers and know how easily they integrate, it's usually "Hey, I had this idea for the lasers. Tell me if they can do this thing." And then it becomes a conversation and dialogue of, even if I don't have a way to do that right away, we can develop a way to do it. And it's all about like, let's see where we can fit them in, because it's kind of become, it's become my calling card. Is like in Chicago, if you think lasers, you think about me or one other person, and it's kind of a beautiful thing. So.
As a creative professional, that adds to your arsenal per se, whether it's theater, dance, traditional concerts,
Exactly.
events. It gives you something else that other people don't have, and something else that you kind of have your special expertise in now. So not many questions for me.
Yeah, no, but you're absolutely right. Like that's kind of how it's progressed, and now it used to be one of my backup tools and one of those extra tools, and now it is literally one of my main ways I communicate with the world. Like it's, sometimes, some lighting designers are very much like me, and we get neurodivergent. When we don't have a project, we start getting a little depressed. Like I gotta make something, and so I'll just throw up 6 lasers, pick a track, and just kick it with my lasers.
I love that, like, you've become like a laser person, and to the amount where people like have the language with you. Like there's a lot of, it's so niche that a lot of people, especially clients, they don't know what you can do. But you've done it with these people so often that they're like, "I have an idea for you," which is really cool.
Yeah, that was part of the process when we started getting into that. It was like, when we started to invest the money, we started to have conversations of like, we need to sell these. How do we sell those? And we figured the best way was just for me to show people what they could do. And like for the first couple shows, we didn't charge to add the lasers. We're just like, let me throw these on there just to do something cool. I'll pay for it. Don't worry about it. And we had a couple special clients that I love that were like, "Okay, cool, let's try it. Let's see what happens." And that's kind of what started the whole thing. And now it's just a, "Hey, can you bring the lasers? Because I think I want to do this thing." All right, let's see what we can do.
Okay, is there anything that we haven't touched on yet that you want to impart on people who haven't tried lasers yet?
The one big thing is don't be scared. Like I know so many people that like while the safety laws and the fact that people know that there's these safety laws that need to be dealt with, it can feel really intimidating as a lighting designer to want to try to go up against that. But once you learn them, it's all about common sense and just basic safety and not being an idiot, right? So that for me, that's the biggest thing is like if you think you might want to use a laser on a thing, you want to use a laser on a thing, and you should go ahead and try to use a laser on a thing. Because here's the thing: is you can also, if you really need to, you can hire an LSO to be like, "Hey, that's not safe, dum dum. Don't do that," right? And they're gonna help. They're gonna help walk you through that process and make sure that you're safe the entire way. And that's why LSOs exist, and that's why Illinois just changed our laws, and they now require an additional LSO that's independent of the operators now. It's, so that there's that extra layer of safety in there. It's that there's somebody just looking at safety and not the show and safety, right? So yeah, so that's really the biggest thing is don't hesitate, just go for it. Go big.
How easy to file your variance?
Well, thanks to the XLaser Easy Variance kits, it is absolutely ridiculously easy. It is easy to file the variance, and then it is even easier to file your reports. Literally, I wait for the email that I get from John every summer, in August of, "Hey, dude, you haven't filled this out yet." All right, click, 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 click. Type about 4 things. Hit send.
How does working with XLaser give you an unfair advantage?
Ooh, that's a great question. I have to say, XLaser gives me an unfair advantage over any other lasers that's using other softwares in the fact that it is faster and easier. And one thing I've actually always tried to explain to people when we're doing stuff like that is a lot of our friends that do laser shows on a 10 pro level or all that, they'll spend months and months trying to curate these laser shows, and they're beautiful and they're gorgeous and they're amazing. But as a full-time lighting designer, I don't have time to spend months on a curated show. And the same show that they've spent months curating in other softwares, I literally can do it in an 8-hour afternoon sitting at home at my desk and do almost everything that they're doing, if not even more than what they're doing, because I have a better set of tools at my fingertips. So for me, that's what the unfair advantage is cutting down my time, which cuts down my costs, which makes a bigger profit for me, makes my clients happier. Our tech day gets done a little sooner. Everybody's less crabby at the end of the day, right? Like, it's all about time. Time is money, and there it is. Plug myself. I'm Dustin Derry from Stonewolf Studios. I am a lighting designer. I love what I do. I am a very passionate individual. I've been told that I have a great creative, strong vision for almost everything, and I love lasers. If you want lasers, I can bring you lasers. I could do it for you. Don't hesitate. Let's make something cool happen.